This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. It can be encompassed, encapsulated, defined in many different ways, through many different lives, through many different times. But at its heart, at its core, it is all about our sports, all about our culture, and of course, all about the Auburn family. Since it's about family, we got to have some family members here to talk. I'm your host, Kyle. Alongside me again in chair number 2, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. War Eagles to our listeners, viewers alike. Good to be back. On a weekend, Auburn did not play football for the first time besides the bye, for the first time in a few months. And it was really strange. And I was just reminded, as we say multiple times, it goes by very, very quick. But we'll talk about, we did find out when Auburn's playing football again soon. And looking forward to breaking down the rest of the Auburn experience with you, man.
Here I was having a great, relatively okay week. And then you reminded me that Auburn football is essentially done. Yes, we get to watch them one more time out there on the field, but bowl games are kind of weird feeling.
Yeah,
Like some love them, some don't. We're going to talk about that a little bit more detail in the show in just a little bit. But you just reminded me that the regular season's over and the championship week is over. How does it go by so fast every year?
Yeah, you got to value it. You got to value it when it's here, because it is the greatest, and it is gone in a flash. And thankfully, it'll feel like too long, but we'll be back talking about it again next fall before we know it. But it went by really, really quick. But I think we'll have to get into it maybe after the bowl game. But definitely a good year for Auburn, a fun year to talk about, and we'll break it all down, I'm sure, later on.
Before we get into potpourri, and we've got a lot to try to hit on this one, episode 58, who you got for us on episode 58 that you want to honor?
Episode 58. Our brother, no longer an Auburn Tiger, decided to try for greener pastures. Not sure he found them. In Tallahassee, Mr. Keandre Jones, who transferred from Auburn, was a good starter for us on the offensive line, wore number 58. He is now with the Florida State Seminoles, but we are sympathizing with our brethren in Tallahassee, which 10 years ago, I thought never possible to be able to come together with our Florida State friends again. But I think we have some common ground after this weekend.
Different times and different feelings now, as we all kind of sit on the same side of a coin that feels loaded for a certain team in a certain aspect of the college football playoff. We'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. All right, let's hit potpourri real quick. We're going to try to hit a bunch of different things here. I'll do 3 of these in rapid fire succession. 3 commitments on the week. And I think I'm going to pronounce these names right. Cale Ellis, a commit for 2026. Kalen Edwards, a commit for 2025. And then the big one, folks, Cam Coleman, flipping from the Texas A&M Aggies, which was predicted by a lot of people. A lot of people are kind of saying, this is my prognostication card here I'm showing to everybody. Cam Coleman has decided to be part of the 2024 class, making a very impressive wide receiver class overall. Quick reactions, thoughts about those 2024, 2025, and 2026 commits.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one is Cam, no doubt. Everybody was waiting on it. Everybody's been hoping that would come to fruition. A little bit of surprise when he committed Texas A&M back in July 4th, I think. And A&M's had some issues of their own this year, going through a relatively unsuccessful season, plus a coaching change. And Cam has always been right up the road. It was something that it just made too much sense not to happen. A great position of need for Auburn, plus being right down the road in Phoenix City. It all came together. We got to get to signing day. I don't think anybody's too worried about the name getting on the paper, but you never know in these days with recruiting. But huge one. The other guys, I truthfully don't know too much about them. Just I think mainly because they're years and years away. But anyone that sees value in joining the Auburn family at any point, whether they change their mind or not, they've got a good head on their shoulders. So congratulations to those guys and their families.
Yeah, it's just good to see a lot of production and early starts to these other classes. Don't be spending too much time on these guys right now. Not to say that we don't believe them and take them at their word, but there's just a lot at play for 2025 and 2026, but happy to have him as part of the commit classes right now. Other things that I want to hit on, it is Christmas time. And as I like to throw a little Christmas in here on the show, you got to take part in something in Auburn today. What was that,
Yeah,
sir?
downtown Auburn, it's been rainy, so it was supposed to be all weekend, but they have had their Christmas festivities have begun. The family and I went down to the Auburn Downtown Christmas Parade today, Kyle, and it was awesome. It was
And
super fun. What?
is the band, is the Auburn band part of that, or is it just
They were not. They
okay?
were not. There was the Auburn High School band, and
That counts.
it's various vendors and various people around the community that take part in it. It's a lot of advertising, if we're being completely honest, but nonetheless, second most important person to what there was there to wrap it up. Santa Claus was there. The most important person started it off, and that's Aubie. So it was delightful. My 8-month-old, well, one slept through the entire thing. Literally woke up right as it ended. But Brooks loves seeing Aubie. He didn't care too much about Santa Claus, so I think we're doing some things right
But
here.
it's Obby Claus, right? I mean, I know he's
Oh yeah, he was dressed up.
so it's Obby Claus. It counts, that all goes around
Yep.
the same way. Just
No
with
fun bringing him
stripes.
into
That's
our house.
that's the only difference right there. But I'm always jealous that you get to take part in those community events. Another reason I want to move to Auburn, but
Come on,
that's still
come
going to
on.
be a ways off, my friend, for now. Another topic to hit, the ACC SEC Challenge inaugural for both men
Yeah.
and women, both successful for the Tigers in basketball. Auburn takes down Virginia Tech at home. The women take down Clemson at home. While I'm sad to see the Big 12 SEC Challenge end, this seems like it's going to be a fun one with a lot of new matchups that maybe we don't see as often. So I loved it, frankly.
Yeah, no, I loved it too. Of course, the Auburn women got Clemson. I mean, what
Of course.
have we not seen this song and dance before, folks? Like, let's try anything. And then I think you and I talked about we. I don't know how you mess it up and put Virginia with A&M and Virginia Tech with us with the storylines there. Nonetheless, Auburn handled business. I actually got to go to the game. It was incredible. Really got to just see the atmosphere this year on it and to the next level. And Auburn was fantastic. So, of course, they fell today at App State. We hate to talk about, but
Had to bring it up,
Kyle,
didn't you?
well, hey, we gotta cover our bases here. Kyle, did you think it was interesting that both the men's and women's ACC SEC challenges finished at a dead even tie, seven to
It's
seven?
almost like somebody planned that way. It's
Very
almost
interesting. We're gonna
interesting.
start being a little like we're gonna get accused of being some like conspiracy theorists here soon.
Hey, next thing you're gonna tell me is that, a team that's undefeated doesn't deserve to be in a
Oh
playoff.
boy.
There it
Oh
went.
boy.
Oh, there it went. Save it, save it. There's plenty of time to talk about that a little bit later. Sad note, volleyball season has come to an end. I
Yeah.
think a little bit of a surprise because Western Michigan, if I believe I was correct,
Yep.
beat Auburn in the first round and was the lower seeded team in
Right.
a 3-set sweep. So I'm sad that that's how it ends this season, even though there's been some up and downs. But again, a lot to be proud of in a very young program in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of history. This is the second year
Hmm.
in a row that we've made the NCAA tournament in volleyball, and first time it's been done in history. So even though it ends abruptly, still continue to see us moving in the right direction as a program. So there's something to celebrate, at least in that.
No, absolutely. And Auburn kind of got bit by the really hot mid-major team. I guess mid-major in volleyball, right? We'll go with that
Right.
terminology. I think Western Michigan lost 2 games all year. It reminds me a lot of the Peach Bowl with UCF or all these other times Auburn's gotten put matched up with the really hot mid-major team that views it as a big opportunity. And Western Michigan certainly did that, and they handled business against Auburn. So it really stinks that it came to an end and didn't get the big um, upset or big long run like we hoped for after last year's success.
Right.
But I mean, we've talked before about how Coach Crouch has a young team. Coach Crouch has a young, talented team, and this thing is set up very well. So I'm looking forward to next year and them getting the postseason again.
Just wanted to see progress, and that's what we
Yeah,
continue to see with this team, coaches, staff, players, and I'm really excited for another season to come around and get here because, as we talked about with football, most any other sports. You're just kind of like, man, it goes by way too fast. Another little note here. This is one I'm going to take a little personal slant on. And I know it's not the most exciting news out there, but it involves Auburn. Alabama Sports Hall of Fame often gets Auburn inductees. Two more Auburn ones are heading there this year. Scott Sullivan from baseball. But for me personally, Larry Chapman, who is an Auburn basketball great. He obviously played here at Auburn. He was an assistant coach here at Auburn, but most famously, for maybe not for most, but for a lot of people from the Montgomery Auburn area, you know that he was the longtime head coach at Auburn Montgomery. And at that time, it was the Senators when he was coaching. I don't think they changed to the Warhawks until much later. I don't know the exact time on there, but I may or may not have played a little ball and been a part of one of his teams. Now I didn't play. That was a wise decision, coach, if you somehow watch this. But I just want to give a shout out to my former coach, Larry Chapman, Auburn great, being in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame now alongside Scott Sullivan. Listen, I can still sling it around, just not as well as good enough to not ride the bench for Coach Larry Chapman. So I know you're probably not surprised by that.
No, no, I think Coach Chapman, I think that his decision not to play you was probably played a big role into getting into the Hall of Fame. So,
Wow.
I think you
I
should view
thought
this
you were
as
going
an
to be
honor. You should
nice.
view this as an honor, and that you have assisted this fine young man getting into the Hall of Fame. So, congrats, Coach Chapman. Thank you for not letting Kyle get injured.
Well, I think I would have injured more of our teammates than actually assisted in the process. There is plenty more potpourri out there that we weren't able to hit this week. Maybe we'll catch up on some of that later on down the line. We got to move into the meat and potatoes of the show. Coming up next in our two main subjects, we are going to be talking about Auburn's bowl game and bowl season. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the transfer portal, which everybody is focused on right now for football. I know, is there going to be some interesting things? All that coming up right here, right next. But first, I got to talk to you guys real quick about something, whether you are me, a content creator, or you're just the audience out there. There's one word that comes to mind that we're all looking for more of, and that is energy. Where do we get it from? How do we get that best source of it from the things that we need to get done every day? Let's just be honest. We need it for the roller coaster ride that is being an Auburn fan. And look, there's things out there that can give you that energy. Some of these big name energy shots out there that you can think of right now, but they all have something in common. They're not the best for your overall health or the best option or solution for you personally, but I do have one for you now, and it's called Magic Mind. After personally trying Magic Mind, I can attest to their claim to be true of defeating burnout and elevating your mental health. Magic Mind gives you the benefits of those other energy alternatives with such things as mental focus and making you more productive, but in a more prolonged and healthy and natural way. Magic Mind has all natural ingredients as well as being sugar and nut free. And it's also ideal for people on those keto, paleo, and vegan diets. I know plenty of you are looking for that healthier alternative out there. Now you have it. Make sure you visit magicmind.com/Auburn podcast. Use the code Auburn20. You'll get 56% off of a subscription or 20% off of a one-time purchase. If you're not convinced, let me tell you very briefly about a family friend that just tried it. He's actually diagnosed with ADHD. His personal claim after trying it, that he felt like Magic Mind gave him the energy and focus that he was looking for without the aggravation of some of his daily symptoms, which some of these alternatives often give him. If you're not convinced by that, I really can't help you. That is a great testament right there. Are you ready to try it? If you are, visit magicmind.com/Auburn podcast with the code Auburn20 for 56% off or 20% off that one-time purchase. Let's move into big topic number one tonight. Bowl season. I actually do love bowl season. It gets me really excited because of all the different matchups that you don't normally see. Now, when we get to the playoff now, you see a lot of these matchups over and over and over again, just because of the way things seem to magically work out when certain decisions are made about things. But let's focus on what is most important about bowl season, and that's where Auburn is going bowling again.
We're back.
We're back, baby. After a 1 year absence from bowl season, we are back at it, and we are not going to the Birmingham Bowl.
We're not in Birmingham.
I think everybody is trying to avoid Birmingham, even Troy, who got stuck there this time. So sorry for our Troy Trojan brethren out there, but you guys can have that. I think they're taking on Duke, if I remember correctly. That,
Yes, last minute switcheroo. It was Georgia Tech. Now they're taking on Duke. Yep.
yeah, what was up with that? Why did the switch happen?
I I have all the only thing I read, which made sense, but I've never seen that before. I've literally
It's
once
weird.
it's broke, it's like that's what it is. I think Georgia Tech's now going to play UCF, and Duke was going to play UCF, but I think Duke and UCF played last year, and
Hmm.
so they were like, "We're not doing this again."
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
that makes sense if it's for a
but
better, yeah.
if you're
Uh,
Birmingham and you had Georgia Tech and Troy, it's like
yeah.
that's pretty good right there. So,
Pretty good proximity, probably good
mhm,
travel fan bases, all that type of thing. All right, our bowl game though. We're heading back to Nashville, Nashvegas. I think they call it Nashvegas.
sure.
Sure, we'll go with it. We'll run with it. It's what I called it, apparently. Auburn back in the Music City Bowl versus not Northwestern, not
Mm,
Wisconsin,
mm.
the Maryland Turtles. Sorry, the Terrapins, but I like to call them the Turtles.
Turtles. We'll call
Um,
them turtles.
did you know that there's a difference between tortoises and turtles?
Here's the zoology degree. Tell me.
Do you know the difference?
Um, does it have to do with climate?
You could make that case, but no, it's different from that.
Have to do with their age?
Nope.
I don't know. I was gonna say one's older, one gets older, or one is in a hotter climate than the other, but I don't know.
Tortoises have a higher propensity to live on land. Typically, that's all they
Oh,
do. And turtles typically live in the water. That's why you hear like sea turtles and not sea tortoises. You know,
but typically, so like there are turtles that go in the water, or that live.
there are tortoises that will like go wade in the water, like walk around in it and stuff, but they're not set up to swim. Like turtles are set up to swim. You know,
So if like a turtle is like crossing the road, that is a well, that would be a tortoise,
that
maybe.
well, and then it's not. And look, there's going to be zoologist people that somehow see this and like butcher me for that simplistic of an explanation, but that's
Okay,
basic.
yeah.
There's terrapins, which is what they are too. Like there's all kinds of
Oh, that's
different.
different from a turtle and a tortoise.
No, not
Oh,
necessarily, but like
okay.
it's. I opened a door I shouldn't have opened. Auburn versus Maryland, Tigers versus Terrapins. This is a matchup that's not happened in quite some time. I think our buddy Clint Richardson said last time Boomer Esiason was playing was
Yeah,
the last time they played or
like
something like
40
that.
years ago or something like that. So
Yeah, it's
we're
been a minute.
I, a rematch.
Well, is it a rematch if it's been that long?
Well, it's a, a I don't know
Rekindling.
or an opponent renewed. Yeah,
Yeah.
rekindling. We'll go with that.
Quite the difference in uniforms if we're going to continue to talk about
Oh
Clint's
yeah.
angles. Like, I've never met or seen a uniform in Maryland that's so confused about what it wants to be. You know,
Look, they and we've talked about this. I have no problem talking about this. They're the Oregon's Nike, right?
right?
Maryland is Under Armour. That's where the headquarters is. That is their baby. That is their school. And they just don't it's not the same. The swag and the cool factor of Oregon with Nike, I think, is hopeful it translates to Maryland. We're starting Maryland hate month, I guess. It does not work with them, and it doesn't help that their state flag is just absolutely hideous. And so
Wow.
it have you seen it?
I have, but I just didn't think you were going to go in on Maryland this early in the show.
They incorporate so much. I didn't either. They incorporate so much of it in their uniform. It's just atrocious. But I think Clint said we're wearing white. That's at
Yes,
least what was on the graphic.
the
So
graphic, yeah.
that's great. I think we'll look fantastic. Now, Lord knows whatever they're going to wear is going to be interesting. But yeah, interesting uniforms, interesting mascot, interesting place, I guess.
Now listen, it is. I will not knock them for the match, even though I wouldn't pick a
Oh,
turtle as
yeah,
my. But you could be the cardinal with a
it's
tree as your mascot. Like
yeah,
that's
it's
so
different.
much worse. It's different.
But it's more the fact that it's like you don't honestly you don't want to be the
Fighting
Maryland
turtles.
the turtles, but it's the terrapins. Like it's different. I cannot remember the name of the mascot. It's Is it Tortuga?
It's Tudo, I think is what his name is.
Something like I used to play
So
with him on NCAA 14 a
did
ton.
you really? Why?
Oh, yeah, because he's so weird looking. Well, you know how you can play with the mascot?
Yes, I know, I
Yeah,
just
he's so strange looking that it was a lot of fun.
I always played with Aubie and ran over Big Al's little
Well,
fat
yeah,
butt,
but
like,
of
but
course, but sometimes you're wanting to mix it up and see. I mean, there's a fighting turtle right there just waiting for you.
there it is. So many angles with this bowl game to talk about,
Tons.
whether it's uniforms, we could call this the Under Armour Bowl if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Maybe this will help them survive with certain teams. We'll leave that for another day. Um, how do you say his first name? Tagovailoa, or how I can't even say the last name.
Yeah,
To his
Talia.
brother, Talia.
Talia, Tula, sure. To his brother. Let's just say to his brother.
We're sorry. I mean, we don't mean any harm, but we just can't pronounce things. We're just from Alabama. What was funny? Watching Alabama fans try to pronounce his name, especially
Oh yeah.
early on, like watching how them try to,
When
you
you
know,
only got two teeth, you
well,
learn
when
it.
you don't recognize some of the letters that you weren't taught
Mhm.
in school, too, that's hard to say. Anyway, to his
Yeah.
brother, and he's a pretty good quarterback too in his own right. We got to face him. I don't know a
Is.
lot about Maryland right now, personally. Do you?
Yeah. No, there's two things I know. I know that Tua's brother's the quarterback. I found out today he's the all-time passing leader in the Big Ten. So he's slinging it around. And I think that the coach's name is Mike Loxley. I think he was
Yes.
the offensive coordinator at Alabama, which
Yes.
hence the connection.
Yep.
That's all I know. I know that, and their uniforms are hideous, and that's about it.
I do remember Maryland kind of giving some of the bigger Big Ten teams this season some trouble at times. So
Hmm.
when I saw the matchup come up, I was like, okay, this is at least a respectable opponent. It's someone new and it's respectable. So
Right.
we'll have hopefully a good bowl game in the Music City Bowl in Nashville again. Auburn's going to have a great contingency of fans there. And they even
Absolutely.
have a great, alumni club there that does a really good job of promoting things. And I know several people in the Nashville area that are Auburn fans that are already probably planning on attending. Maryland's not too far away. So we should have a good contingency of fans of both. So I think it's going to be a successful bowl game in terms of
It's on
numbers, money, all that stuff.
it's on a Saturday.
Yep.
That always helps. It'll be the 30th, I think is
Saturday the
that
30th.
Saturday. So
Mhm.
you're not hitting New Year's Eve, you're not hitting New Year's Day, which of course you'd love to be in those games, but that helps out logistics and things. Look, Auburn went to Vanderbilt this year and took over.
Yep.
And so I have no doubt it's going to be an easy trip. It's like a 1 o'clock kickoff. It'll be an easy day trip in a whole. So I think it'll be a packed out in orange and blue.
Yeah, we'll do some more in-depth look into them and talk about them in the weeks as we head up to the matchup there. But we just kind of wanted to get an initial thought preview about all of that. I think there's a lot to like from this matchup, location, date. Otherwise, there's storylines to talk about with this and connections, even back to Alabama and Auburn there as well. So we can dive into some of that as we get there. Very quickly, if you want to mention any of the other bowl games or rigged playoff selections, any thoughts you want to
Um,
share?
Let me think about. I haven't looked at the bowls too much.
There are some
Based.
good matchups in the bowl games. I will say that
Yeah,
much.
I need to look at them more. I really wanted Auburn to go to the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville.
Mhm.
Sounds like that might have been a possibility before the Iron Bowl snafu. They would have played Clemson, so I don't know if I would have really wanted them to go play Clemson in Jacksonville, just for because of the repetitive nature of
Nature.
playing Clemson. And the conference championship week, it because it kind of led into bowl season. I really wanted. I'm not at all ashamed of my affinity for Bo Nix at Oregon. I really wanted Oregon to win. I thought that was a great game. Heartbreaker for Bo and the Ducks. And if you haven't watched his post game press
You
conference,
need to.
regardless of how you feel about Bo, regardless of how you feel about Bo and Auburn, aside all that you might need to work through yourself. Bo's post game press conference about just loving college football and just loving having been given the opportunity to play, even though he will never meet his goal of playing and winning a national championship, was Great perspective. Absolutely great
and
perspective
he's
for just
playing in his bowl game.
and he's playing in his bowl game against the group of 5 highest ranked team, Liberty, in the Fiesta Bowl. And easily, it's not my cup of tea thing to do, but an easily kind of justifiable by the masses thing to dip out of early for a
Mhm.
guy who's projected in the first round. So
Yep.
um, I'll be pulling for them. I'll be watching that game for sure. Um, but I can't really think of any of the besides the playoff games. I don't really want to get into it anymore.
I know. I'm kind of annoyed with it at this point. I literally sat this entire morning after church looking at my phone, just like I know what's coming. We
I know
all could see it. ESPN primed you for it. They were,
it was
just
perfect.
they were basically just begging for it and all this stuff.
Yep.
It just is. It's so stupid. It's absolutely stupid. I'm sorry. You can be mad at me, band fans. Call me whine and cry. I don't care. I don't give anything for it.
The only saving grace is that we will not have to deal with this again, because next year we'll go 12,
Thank you.
and thank goodness. But
Because they're
it's
not 12
ridiculous.
conferences, so
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so, but regardless, I love bowl season. I call it bowl mania. I think that used to be what the pick'em for on
yeah.
ESPN was called, bowl mania. So I've still stuck to that, and I just love it. There's college football all throughout the Christmas holiday season, and it will be fun. It's always a good buffer with family time, so it'll be a great time. I will be hook 'em horns all day long for the
Whoa, whoa,
national
whoa, whoa,
championship,
whoa! Don't
though.
be throwing up gang signs on here. I mean,
It's hook 'em. It's hook 'em all day. Well, they beat them once, let's beat them again.
yeah. Listen, it just who I don't care who it is at this point. Just get them out of there where they don't deserve to be there. Of course, here I've said that, and they're going to win the whole thing. All right. So as I dig myself a further hole, let's move on to big topic number 2 tonight. We're going to talk about that transfer portal. It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, not Christmas time,
Ooh.
as I like to think of it. And I do apologize to the viewers right now.
Mm.
I have not gotten my lights up, even though in this angle you can't really see it, but on our other shows and after the recording, when those of you that stay can see it, I have like a Christmas Santa, an Auburn Santa thing, and all this kind of stuff I'm gonna put up. It is transfer portal season, probably by the time you are listening to this. If you watch the live recording, it hasn't arrived yet, but the transfer portal officially is open tomorrow.
Ooh, the
Has it lost it?
portal.
I know. Has it lost its allure for you at this point?
Oh no, I think it's fantastic. It's like we go straight from now. Is it absurd and has it gotten way out of hand? Absolutely. But the transfer portal, it's like the perfect if you're not in it for the conference championship and you're not in it for the playoff or whatever,
Right.
and you have, and the situation Auburn's in where you're still looking to revamp your roster, the portal is like it's like the perfect segue into the off season, and the off season that really never happens because of it. It's I think it's fantastic. I think it's already absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be more and more ridiculous every year until somehow there gets a strangle on this thing. Um, but it's crazy to me that it officially opens tomorrow. Yet we've had a whole week of people basically being in it because they're just saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going
I'm
to
in
enter
it.
it when it hits." And it's
Yeah.
like we've already got people, coaches making visits. I mean, the rules are just the paint on the field. It's like, well, we could paint this line here, but people are going to cross it, so we might as well paint it over here. I mean, it is an absolute free
Kind of
for
like
all,
a
and
kind of like a selection committee's rules, right? They just change
we're
them.
going to hit every segment. But I think it's nuts, but I love it. Like I love keeping up with it. I think it is just absolute chaos, in a good and bad way.
Mm. I like it. For me, I prefer the old fashioned way of recruiting from high school and building up depth and continuity. Transfers in any regard, even before the portal, I always viewed as band aids that sometimes, if peeled off too
Mm,
quickly, reveal open wounds that haven't healed yet. Um, Now, if you can swing a really good transfer portal situation every single year and make that work for you and make that your bread and butter, more power to you. I you
yeah,
know, I think Auburn was in a must utilize the transfer portal at all costs last year, and I think with a season behind us in the first year of Hugh Freeze, you saw why. Um, Need a lot of help. And even that wasn't enough in some areas holistically. We had improvements, I think, across the board, still needed plenty more. So the question becomes, Austin, about the transfer portal about to open up, how involved will Auburn be? And when I ask that, not just, we know they're going to be putting their feelers out there. If people are
Sure.
interested, talking to them, you do that just because that's a smart practice. But will Auburn be picking up a lot of transfers in the transfer portal season? What are your thoughts? Any numbers, any ideas come to mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it and I agree with you that it can't I don't think you can, for lack of a better term, I'll just say it, I don't think you can Dion the transfer portal every year and take out the whole roster and I don't think that's a successful way
Right.
um, to to build a college football program. I think there has to be some kind of marriage between the high school recruiting and the transfer portal for you to be long term successful. And thankfully, to put an Auburn spin on, I think Hugh Freeze and this staff understand that. But through the transfer portal, you can also, like you said, kind of help some immediate needs in certain places. Let's remember that a lot of these guys are transferring. Why are they transferring? Maybe they're not getting the playing time they wanted. Why aren't they getting the playing time they wanted?
Mhm.
And so I think there's different ways to look at each part of it. With Auburn, I think that probably going to be active, like you said, and have feelers. And if you can upgrade in certain areas, I think you should. And I think you have to look at that as how many guys are we losing to the portal itself for us, and then also the draft or graduation. How many guys are we bringing in that are freshmen? Can they play right away? And you look at the different numbers of where that is.
Yep.
I think the big one everyone's going to want to talk about, and it's already been just hot and heavy, is quarterback. And I think with Auburn, um, you like what you have in Peyton Thorne. We saw pretty good progress. I think that's probably going to be a place where if they can upgrade, they will.
Mhm.
And I mean, you got to fit. You got to fit. It's got to be a good fit on each side now, right?
Right.
With NIL, with with these players having a lot more autonomy and more power to go where they want for what they want, um, is all going to be what's the perfect match.
Right.
Regardless, I think a big pro of the transfer portal is just competition. Um, you know, it didn't really work out the way it was hoping for Auburn, but Brian Harsin brought in TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford for competition. We didn't know who out of that group was going to end up starting. But I think
Both.
with yes, and and there's an example of the success of the transfer portal, right? Like it wasn't just because of playing time for Bo. It was wanting to be developed, wanting to get ready for the next level, wanting
Right.
from a personal standpoint to try something new
To be
and
protected.
to be protected on and off the field. And so
Took that different angle.
that for Auburn, it'll be interesting to see which way they go. I think this staff is not going to all out blitz the transfer portal for everything they want or for everything they think they need. It's going to have to be the right, for lack of a better term, for the right price and for the right match for Auburn. I don't think this is just going to be a desperate heave into every single person that jumps in. And I don't think it should be. I think that's the
Right.
right way to go about it. And the recruiting in the high school level is going swimmingly for Auburn, as we've already touched
Right.
in Potpourri. And so I have no qualms about how the staff is handling recruiting in high school and transfer portal. I'm glad they're active and dipping their toes in the portal and different people that come in. And I mean, I trust them to do the right thing with it.
Yeah, look, everybody's focused on quarterback because it's the big ticket position. There's a reason there's a lot of emphasis put on that. You can see the difference in a well quarterback team and a non-well quarterback team. And I'm not even saying that Auburn is or isn't. I think Peyton Thorne, much like Hugh Freeze, was given a very tall task to work with, given how quickly or how little time he had to get ready.
That's
Was he
right.
a perfect quarterback this year? Heck no. But there is a lot of it became evident why he was chosen to be the starter as the season came along, what he's capable of. Now, the question is he the guy going forward? And do you trust that and forego a transfer portal quarterback? The love affair of Grayson McCall continues from Coastal Carolina. I listen, if he comes here, I'll eat my own words, but I wish people would give that up. I don't mean that in ill will during anybody. I'm so tired of hearing his name at this point.
Yep.
But at the same token, like you said, it's got to be a good fit. And just because the transfer quarterback
Quarterback.
comes in doesn't mean he's the guaranteed starter. He's got to beat Peyton Thorne out, who's got more time with him in
That's
this
right.
offense, in this system. And frankly, I don't want a quarterback system anymore right now because
No.
we've seen enough of that. So if there's the right fit, right time, it sounds from what I heard that Peyton Thorne is kind of wanting to stick it out here, is not looking to leave. Even if maybe there was a quarterback situation brought in, I don't know that for a fact. That's just speculation. We'll see. I just would not put all of your hopes and dreams and beliefs in a transfer quarterback at this point. I think it's probably going to be a little bit of offensive lineman, probably, because we're going to be losing quite a few transfer offensive linemen. Do you think that's a fair?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think the way I look at offensive linemen and transfer portal is, for those that are Major League Baseball fans, is at the trade deadline, everybody wants pitching help. Everybody wants relief
it's a
pitching.
good one.
Doesn't know how good you are. It doesn't know no matter how bad you are. You cannot have enough relief pitchers. I think that's the way it is with offensive linemen. You can never have enough guys that can sub in, sub out as in and build the trenches for you. So I think with the offers that have gone out for this year in the transfer portal, that's where it started for Auburn, and those guys are at a high priority
Mhm.
across the country. So I don't think you'll see a lack of interest there. I think you'll probably see a lack of interest on the other side on the defensive, or a lack of interest, not a lack of interest on the other side on the defensive line as well.
Yep.
Same type thing. Everybody wants that. Everybody's going to be looking for that. Um, I personally, and I'm not saying this because of the guys we have or um, the talent coming in or anything like that. I think you still need to look at the receiver room as some help in
Mhm.
the transfer portal. I don't think it's a good idea to just say, look at all these freshmen we got coming in. I mean,
Right.
we're going to be stuck. I mean, look, they're going to be 18 years old and still freshmen. Um, and that's not always the best thing. Just throw them in there. I think
Right.
having some guys maybe with some 1 year deals, 1 year deals. I mean, it is free
And it's
agency.
what
We
it
might as
is.
well
Don't.
call it like that.
That's a
Uh,
Freudian slip, but that's true.
1 year of eligibility left would probably serve this team some experience, and some guys who are looking to maybe get on a bigger level playing
Right.
field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think in all areas, Auburn's going to be pretty interested, but probably those the most.
I look at this transfer portal season as Auburn's not going to be stupid. They're going to go after positions of need, duh. But I think this may be a year where you see less of the, oh, that guy's coming, he's going to be an instant starter, which, is a quick judgment to jump to. But last year it was easy for Auburn, given what they had to kind of fix or get started in the right direction. I think I loved your analogy of the baseball at the trade deadline, going after the pitching,
Yeah,
offensive lineman, defensive lineman. You got to have depth there, and we lacked, especially on defensive line in some regard. At least that's what it seemed like this year a little bit. So I think that's going to happen. It wouldn't shock me. Again, just pure speculation, seeing who we're about to lose. I mean, this was going to be covered in potpourri if we had time, but we're about to lose a bunch of upperclassmen leadership in the defensive back group. DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, Jalen Simpson, Keontae Scott, and I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out there. We got great talent coming up with that.
Zion Puckett. Yeah,
Zion Puckett. We have got to probably find a piece or two that is ready to start right away that can plug in there and bridge the gap to all that young talent that we brought in last year at the defensive back room and will continue to bring in. So for me, that would be an area that I would look to and say, maybe we find, if you look for, everybody looks for their centerpiece of their recruiting class or their transfer portal. Oftentimes it's the quarterback, and that'll probably be the focus for everybody this year. But if you look at that defensive back room, it wouldn't shock me in the least if we somehow found a way to find somebody that's like, oh, wow, that was the big get of the transfer portal season, at least to get us over the hump at the defensive back room.
yeah.
So a lot of different angles, and there's going to be plenty of discussion about that. Maybe by the time you've watched or listened to this, there's already news about Auburn taking someone or not taking someone. Plenty to discuss coming up in the future because the transfer portal, basically, it never closes at this point. And it's
Never.
hard to keep track of it sometimes. That's going to do it for episode 58 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We appreciate you hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. If you want to find me, you can do so on the X/Twitter at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you, sir?
Austin G. Scott, G as in go Auburn.
As in go Auburn. That's certainly one way to go about that. All that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.